So there should be a close match between. Also, don't mind my hair. It's very hot. दोनों fans off है. The AC is off because आवाज़ बहुत आती है उसकी. What's up, you guys? Aditi. Welcome back to our channel. I know this thing looks a little different because I'm trying out the cinematic mode of my phone. It's still the same camera, but I'm just using a different mode. Let me know how this feels like. If it is weird, if the audio quality is getting compromised or something like that, just let me know in the comment section. If you can hear pam 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 pam, there's some car in my neighboring building. I can't do anything about it. It's not in my building. Anyway, so we are going to start one of the topics I wanted to talk about for like the last 4-5 months, and I just did not. I don't know why I kept forgetting about this. It's a really good topic. I think a lot of people will be interested in this. It's about different kinds of therapies. Before we start talking about different kinds of therapies, there are going to be multiple videos. I don't want to put all the different kinds of therapies in one video. It will be really long, like maybe 1.5 hour long, I guess, at least 1 hour long. So I'll make it in snippets. So today we'll just talk about 2 kinds of therapies. But before we talk about different kinds of therapies, let's understand what a therapist is, or who is a therapist. So therapist is a person who is trained to help people with psychological problems. Therapists provide hundreds of different forms of therapy that will be available to clients. So the first kind of therapy that we'll see is psychotherapy. We have heard about psychotherapy for ages, so let's know what psychotherapy is. So psychotherapy is the helping process in which a trained therapist performs certain activities that will facilitate a change in the client's attitudes and behaviors. It is more likely to be used by people with milder disturbances who seek it as a means of personal growth and for relief of troublesome symptoms. And something like psychotherapy, there is a second kind of therapy, which is insight therapy. So insight therapy is therapies that bring change by increasing the self-understanding. Now, insight therapies are of 2 types. Okay, the first type is psychoanalysis. So psychoanalysis, we know the founder, Sigmund Freud. We know that he believed that everybody or people have these sexual and aggressive desires, and they are kind of repressed by people in their unconscious mind, and that is what causes conflicts. Like, these desires try to come out in very different ways, like in depression and aggression ke symptoms may they try to come out because they're trying to repress them. So that is what he believed. What psychoanalysis does is it involves psychotherapy, and it is aimed at helping a person gain insight and mastery over unconscious conflicts by bringing them into consciousness where they can be dealt with directly. So one of the core approach that psychoanalysis has is using transference. So transference is an unconscious tendency of clients to project onto the therapist the feelings and fantasies that they may have, which can be both positive or negative, about significant others in their childhood. Now, psychoanalysis therapists, they try to deliberately foster transference in their clients. So basically, the clients will start projecting any of the behaviors that they may have, that the problems that they may have with their significant others in their childhood onto the therapist, and that's how the therapist will start addressing the issues that the client may have and bringing it into consciousness and letting them know, okay, these are the things that we have to deal with, these are the things that we have to learn to cope with. So for example, a male client, when he sees his female therapist, who is a psychoanalyst, he may transfer all of the or any of the emotions, desires that he may have towards his mother onto this female analyst and start looking at her as a mother figure. And ever since that kind of a transference relationship has been built, the therapist, that female analyst will start addressing these issues and bringing them into consciousness, for like letting the client know that these are the issues that he may have, that he is not that he has not realized yet, and then helping the client achieve insight into the past and their present behavior. The second kind of technique that is used in psychoanalysis is free association. If you have learned anything about Sigmund Freud, you would know that how much he actually did use this technique of free association with his clients. He used to make his clients lie down, relax on the sofa, chair or whatever, and just let them talk whatever comes to their mind. And then Sigmund Freud would actually just Sigmund Freud would actually just infer things about the issues that they may have, the problems that they may have, by interpreting whatever they have said about maybe their father, maybe their sister or something, and just come up with theories about them. So this is something that we can also see in free association. So basically an individual is asked to lie down on a couch, relax, clear their mind of everyday thoughts, and then see whatever comes to mind, regardless of how trivial it sounds. At times, clients are also kind of encouraged to speak about any dreams that they may have. Then the dream analyst or psychoanalyst, who is also a dream analyst, will use these dream interpretations and try to give insight onto their dreams and the issues that they may have. Another thing that can actually come up, which can be a problem in a way, is called as resistance. So when an individual hesitates or is reluctant to speak about some painful experience, it is seen as a sign of resistance. So like the earlier situation, before the transference relationship is actually created with the female analyst, maybe the male client is kind of hesitant, is resisting to talk about his mother because he does not want to deal with the issues that he may have unconsciously, that he may have with his mother. Also, when there are resistances, by the way you handle resistances, it kind of helps the client to learn how to cope and deal with anxiety provoking situations. Now, psychoanalysis is quite time consuming and it's very taxing to your pocket, because it's said that it used to take the sessions used to be twice or thrice a week for an hour or two or whatever. So it was not very conducive to everyone. It was only for the privileged few. Like, even if you think about it logically, Sigmund Freud actually came up with psychoanalysis. He had female clients who were rich in the Victorian era, so it kind of worked for them. They had a lot of resources, but not everybody does, and everybody does need therapy. So there was this new form of treatment that came up from psychoanalysis, is psychodynamic therapy. So psychodynamic therapy aims to discover and resolve unconscious conflicts through insight. During both psychoanalysis and psychodynamic therapy, the therapist is responsible for producing well-being in the client, and by explaining to them where their problem is originating from and what they need to do to effect change. Now, we already know what psychoanalysis sessions and all of that was. Psychodynamically, it used to be like once or twice maximum in a week, and it would take around 20 to 30 sessions. Like, this is from my textbook. That's the disclaimer. I'm not saying this. It's given in my textbook that 20 to 30 sessions lagte hai. Also, another difference between psychodynamic and psychoanalysis is that in psychodynamic therapy, the therapist does take an active role in the therapy. Like in psychoanalysis, we saw free association, where the client is encouraged to just speak their mind out, whereas the therapist just sits sits back, relaxes, and just does the interpreting job. It doesn't actually participate in, like, coming up with diagnosis, coming up with plans and schedules and strategies. I don't know. So that's another difference between the two. Another difference, the third difference between psychodynamic and psychoanalysis is that psychoanalysis focused on sexual and aggressive desires, whereas psychodynamic know that it emphasizes on other issues like relationship issues that you may have with your parents, your family, your friends, your spouse, your any boyfriend, girlfriend, like any other relationships that you may have in your life. Psychodynamic therapy is most effective for people who are self-reflective, they are introspective, they ruminate in their thoughts and feelings and emotions. So first type of insight therapy was psychoanalysis and psychodynamic therapy. Second is person-centered approach or client-centered approach or rogerian approach. So it's given by Carl Rogers. So Carl Rogers thought differently than psychodynamic therapy. So psychodynamic therapy, you do take an active role in therapy, whereas he believed that let the client take the lead and the therapist should follow. So instead of the therapist taking the lead and coming up with plans and schedules and whatever, the client should be the one to take the lead. So that's why it's called as client-centered approach in the beginning, but by the end of his career, he changed the name to person-centered approach. And I'll explain why person by the end of this point, but let's just learn how did actually Carl Rogers come up with this approach. An ad will start playing in the next 5 seconds, so if you do want to support me and you want to support this channel, please do not skip the ad. Thank you so much. Roger developed this approach because of this one, at least that's when he thought of it, that he had this one case in the beginning of his career is about a son and a mother. So he tried different methods and different ways and nothing was working, so he was about to give up and just admit failure when the mother of the client was like leaving. When she turned back and she asked him if Carl Rogers takes adult clients, and I think he said yes. So she came back, she sat down and she started pouring her heart out about the despair in her marriage, her emotions, her failure and everything. And when he started helping her out and her relationship with her husband and all the family dynamics kind of got better, the problems that the son had, that also kind of started disappearing. So this is when Carl Rogers actually realized that instead of giving his own diagnosis and understanding, because he let the client take the lead, because he let that mother take the lead and he followed, he could help them out. And then I think he applied this technique, this approach to other clients as well, and I guess it must have worked, and that's the reason why I came up with this whole approach. Carl Rogers believes that everyone has this vast resource of self-understanding and understanding to alter or modify our own behavior. So we need to find the right method to actually tap into those resources, and once we do that, a person can actually change and modify their behavior. So that is what Rogerian approach is about. He also came up with these three conditions which will actually help us build a good bond and create this amazing therapist-client relationship, and this relationship would actually kind of promote growth of the client. So the first point is that the therapist should be genuine and congruent. There should be a close match between what the therapist thinks and what the therapist expresses to the client. The therapist cannot think differently and then kind of guide the person differently. They need to be in that mind and they need to be really honest with the client as well. Second is attitude of acceptance and caring. So basically unconditional positive regard. when a therapist is not judgy, is not judgmental, the client can actually feel the love and care for them from the therapist, and they feel free to actually speak their heart out, spill the beans, show all their cards, speak about their emotions, their fears, all of the things that they are really afraid to tell anyone. They should be able to tell their therapist. So when you give them unconditional positive regard, that kind of helps break down the walls that people have. Third is that there should be empathic understanding. So the client therapist relationship should have empathic understanding. So a therapist must be able to sense the emotions and personal feelings that a client is experiencing. And just like the psychodynamic or psychoanalysis, the therapies they are most effective for people who are very introspective and reflective. Same way, even person-centered approach is like that, because the client is supposed to come up and talk, and they should know what they're feeling and thinking, like, in a way. So yeah, so it's for people who are very reflective and introspective. And that is it for today's video. I am going to speak really fast because I'm dying. Like, share, subscribe. Let me know how you thought about this video and this whole bokeh effect, cinematic view or something. And subscribe. Did I say that? Yeah, I did. I'll see you next Friday with another psychology video.